Hey guys, I just laid the PPF down on this rear panel on this Rivian, and I'm just gonna kind of walk you through exactly how I do it. It's a relatively easy panel, but still fun to see how different people do it. So I just laid it down. I'm gonna spray a little bit more water underneath. You can hear that after just sitting on there for just a couple of seconds, it's starting to stick a little bit, which is what I like. Now there is some preference involved there. I don't want it too slippery. Okay, especially on that body line, because that's where I'm gonna go first. Now here, I'm gonna tack down right on this body line. I'm gonna feed it in here a little bit. And I really wanna just point out, everywhere I squeegee ends up being nice and dry after I squeegee. That's a big deal when it comes to being efficient and getting the panel done and not having a bunch of air left behind or a bunch of water left behind. So now I'm stretching all the way down that body line, making sure it's not sticking to that sharp body line. Paying attention to my film. I got good tension right here, so it's gonna squeegee up there just fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and tack down on this back hatch. Now again, a lot of you have heard me say this a million times, but this is a hybrid template. So we took the template from Core software and we add it 2 inches all the way around. So I'm not spending any time lining things up. As you can see, I've taken this PPF squeegee and customized it just so it has a nice angle on it. There are squeegees that you can buy that have that angle on there already, but I choose to just buy the rectangle ones and then customize it myself to get the shape that I like. So now, as you can see, I'm squeegeeing on that body line first. And again, where I just got done squeegeeing is totally dry. And that has a lot to do with the technique that I'm using. And when I talk about technique, I talk about having my squeegee more upright than having it flat. The flatter your squeegee is, watch this, the flatter your squeegee is, the more water you leave behind. See how it's all wet? The more upright you keep your squeegee, the more dry it is right after you squeegee. So I keep it really upright, and I'm focusing on squeegeeing the water off the top of the film just as much as I'm focusing on squeegeeing the water out from underneath the film. Now here, I'm gonna invite this to come towards me. And obviously this is very straightforward. It's all laying flat. There's no stretching necessary, but it still does take attention to detail to get all the water out without leaving any air behind or without accidentally leaving any water pockets behind. It saves so much time when you get done with the panel and you're actually done and you don't have to chase a bunch of air out or pick the film back up and create work marks because you weren't thorough from the get-go. So that's why being thorough is so important. Okay, so at this point, I already know my slip solution is gonna have started to tack a little bit. See that? So instead of just trying to squeegee through that, I'm gonna pick it back up again and I'm gonna add more slip underneath it. Now again, there's some preference there. So some people might like their solution a little bit slipperier. I don't like my slip solution too slippery when I'm doing PPF. When I'm tinting, I love it super slippery. And part of doing a hybrid template, when I grab the edge of the film, that's all gonna get cut off because I have 2 inches all the way around. So I'm not grabbing the template that's actually gonna stay on the car, or I'm not grabbing the film that's gonna stay on the car. So I have this big tension line here. I'm gonna pull straight down. And I'm gonna pull until it's nice and taut. And I can tack here, or if I'm really confident, which I don't always recommend doing, I can take a big swipe here. Okay, but I just did this panel on the other side, so I'm confident in how I'm gonna complete this. Now I'm gonna squeegee all this out. There's no more stretching necessary. So here I'm gonna just be very thorough with my squeegee upright overlapping my strokes by 50%. Trying to avoid bringing water over that body line where it can cause silvering. Rather, I'm bringing it this way. Now I'm gonna squeegee on that body line, directly on it, letting that squeegee conform. Okay. When I'm ready, I'm gonna put my tack solution in this crevice and get it really nice and tight. Not quite ready for that yet, because we still have to deal with this back. Okay, again, I'm gonna add some slip, because I know, see, hear that? It's already starting to tack up a little bit. Then I'm gonna grab my vinegar and water, which is what I use for tack solution. Just a preference, you can use alcohol. And what you can see here is we've got fingers. This is gonna be the most challenging part of this fender. Not that it's hard, but this is, you know, if there is a challenging part, this is it. So I'm pulling to the corner, just as I would if I was making a bed. These tension lines are good, because that means that I just need to pull down on that extra 2 inches I gave myself to eliminate that. So now that I've got it held there, I'm gonna spray some of my tack solution. And because I've done a hybrid template, I have the ability to tack on this back hatch and not even have to tack on the fender that I'm working on. So now, I'm gonna spray some of my slip solution on top. I've got a body line right here. I'm gonna try to avoid bringing water over, and I'm gonna bring it up. Then I'm gonna squeegee directly on that body line. And then now that I'm on the other side of it, I can bring it all down. Okay, like I just talked about, I just simply pull down on these. That's what this is all about, is being able to read the film and know what the film's telling you. Okay, so here we have the film bunching up just a little bit. It's not bad, but it needs to be addressed. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is peel this up just a little bit and pull this finger to this corner over here. And I might utilize just a little bit of steam. Okay. The steam is to just soften it and to make it easier to manipulate. Okay, so just a little bit of steam, just like that. And I'm gonna pull to this corner. Not pulling really hard because I don't want to get a stretch line right there. Okay, now it's so wet right there, I'm nowhere near being able to finish my edge because I have to inspect to make sure that I didn't accidentally miss a big water pocket in this area. So again, holding my squeegee nice and upright, I gotta dry it off, kind of give it an inspection before I take my tack solution and really seal it down. So the benefit to doing a hybrid, there's multiple benefits, but one of the key benefits to doing a hybrid template is that you can hold the film and work with it like a bulk piece. The disadvantage is that now I have to hand cut it. Okay, the advantages to working with a template is you do not have to hand cut it, but the disadvantage of a template is that you have to spend your time lining everything up. So for me, I prefer to not have to waste time trying to line it up and figure out how the template was designed, rather have the disadvantage be that I have to hand cut it. In some cases, depending on your hand cutting ability, it's an advantage to hand cut it because it's going to come out cleaner and tighter. So I'm gonna put just a tiny little bit of blade out on my Ulfa Silver and do a couple of relief cuts here. And the only reason why I'm doing relief cuts is just so that this film is not in my way as I come right here to make my cuts. See how that would be in my way? So I'm gonna just, again, very little blade out, so there's almost no chance of scratching this bumper. And now all these pieces of PPF lay down nice and flat so that it's not in the way of my knife. Okay, now we need to work on just this little corner. As you can see, there's quite a bit of fingers, but it's obvious what we need to do. We need to just pull towards this corner. Okay, before I do that, I need to add a little bit of slip solution. I'm gonna steam it just to make it easier to manipulate. And then I'm gonna pull straight to this corner. And the trick here is to pull as hard as I need to, but no harder than I have to. So I don't wanna just pull as hard as I can just to do it. I wanna pull as hard as I need to, but no harder than I have to. And that's right about where I want it. So now I can actually just hold this. Now I wanna pull a little bit more towards the back here. Just like that. I could tack it to the light up here because I got the room on my 2 inches on my hybrid template. Okay, now after I dry it off, and only after I dry it off, using my squeegee, can I seal this edge. And you can see how the film's bridged a little bit there. So I'm gonna just take my tack solution and seal that nice and tight. Okay. I'm gonna take the time to dry this off. All right, so that's the first stage of this panel. This next stage is gonna be, all right, so that's the first stage to doing this panel. The next stage is gonna be to make my cut. So if you wanna see that, stay tuned.
3, 2, 1.
All right, so I'm ready to make my cuts on this panel. The first thing I'm gonna do is go around and make sure that the film is not bridged anywhere and that it's tucked nice and tight. And obviously, we wanna make sure that there's no air pockets or water pockets anywhere where I'm gonna be making a cut in a deep crevice like that. Okay, so here I'm gonna be making what I call an air cut. I'm gonna be cutting in the air. Here I'm gonna be cutting on the paint, but just in the depth of this crevice. Same here, I'm gonna be making the cut in this crevice. So here we go, I just found it. And I wanna be really detail oriented about getting all the water out. Because there's another little water pocket. There's another little water pocket. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Water and air. If it's just water, it will go away. If it's got air in there, the water is going to go away and the air is going to be left behind. Okay? So I'm tucking the film really tight using my tack solution, and then also making sure that the film is going to be out of my way in any section that I think it might be in my way. Using my Ulfa Silver with a 30-degree blade in it, I'm gonna make this cut. Once I get here, I'm gonna go all the way through the scrap film, or the film that's hanging off the edge, and that's what allows it to get started. Now, like I said, I'm gonna cut in this crevice that we've already got it nice and tight in. Just go nice and slow when you're just starting. Now with that said, a little bit of speed to your cuts, once you get comfortable with your depth, does add to the straightness of your cuts. And I always use riding a bike as an analogy. Obviously it's impossible to ride a bike really straight when going super slow. As you take a couple cranks and you gain some speed, it's easier to ride that bike in a straight line. So you do, once you get comfortable with the depth, want to also focus on the speed. Now, it's not to get it done fast, again, it's to get it straighter. But to be able to go fast, you then have to look ahead. So a lot of beginners have the tendency to crowd themselves on the blade. What do I mean by crowd themselves? I mean have a tiny little bit of blade out and have their hand right there. Well, you can't look ahead. I like to have quite a bit of blade out and be on the back of my knife so I can look way ahead of where my blade is. It's similar to driving in the fog. You can't go fast when you're in the fog because you can't look far enough ahead to have the confidence to drive fast. So to have the confidence to cut a little bit faster, be far back from the tip of the blade, and don't concentrate here at the tip of the blade. I'm looking way over here at the tip of the knife. And I'm leaving, between an 1/8 inch and a 1/4 inch. The trick is to just it's better to have too much than to not have enough. And you can see there, for those people that are just getting started or potentially viewers that are not in the industry, I don't actually cut through the PPF. We score it so that when we tear it, it tears on that line. Okay, so even when I'm doing what I call air cuts, I'm cutting in the air, I'm still practicing my depth. If you attempt to cut all the way through, which is possible, and I do that sometimes, but you're more likely to have that blade wander into the panel and then end up not leaving enough PPF for it to wrap around. So it's definitely safer to do an air cut, and you get to also practice on your depth when doing that. Okay, now here on the other side, I literally did a top cut on this window and it worked out perfect. The only concern I have is right here where this tension is. I don't want my blade to chatter through there. So what I'm gonna do is take just a little bit of blade and do a relief cut and eliminate some of that. And I'm gonna stop right about there. So I'm gonna give that a shot. I only have a little bit of blade going past the edge of the window. I obviously don't want to stick my blade in there so far that I risk scratching the paint. So this is going to give me a nice straight line. And like I said, I did the other side, but even before I did the other side, I grabbed a piece of PPF and did a test to see if this was gonna give me enough stealth PPF for the coverage that I was looking for. And obviously on this install, we don't want any gloss paint showing. So that's the perfect amount of PPF to fold in there and to not show any gloss paint showing. If the window had been further away, then I might not have been able to use that technique. So I'm gonna just stop that cut there because everything changes right there. And I'm gonna go back to tucking in the PPF before I cut it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my tack solution. Peel that up just a little bit. Spray my vinegar and water in there. And then I'm gonna take my squeegee and tuck it in really nice and tight. So now that it's nice and tight with all the water out, start right there. Again, quite a bit of blade out, pretty far back on my knife, using very, very, very light pressure, just scoring it with my 30-degree blade. Then once I come off the panel, that's where I carefully push through just to get it started. Even still, you obviously want to pull that scrap film with precaution, because if you didn't score it properly, you don't want it to tear into the panel. So I just pull cautiously. Then right here is where the film is gonna fall between the chrome piece and the window. And I just give that a real nice angle, and it's gonna show craftsmanship and workmanship. And so hopefully you guys will be able to see this, but I'm gonna come in here, and with my PPF squeegee, it's gonna fall right in there and look like a template. Switch. Now here I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna come out of that corner. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is take my ghost glove. I've worked up to about 4 or 5 inches away from this corner. I'm gonna make sure all the water and air is out. And you can see what we're gonna try to do is get this corner to lay down with no creases. So I like to hold my finger with my ghost glove right there and just very carefully, starting too far away, start too far away, and just I can feel it on my finger. If it's not bothering my finger, it's not gonna bother the glass or the plastic. So I could start to feel it on my finger and see how I take my ghost glove and mold it around there. Now that it's molded around there, I'm gonna take my PPF squeegee and work away from that. And that's why I didn't go all the way into that corner working around this window. So utilizing just a PPF squeegee, a ghost glove, and a cigar torch, you can see I got that corner with no fingers. That's what I love about this, is with these 3 tools, a little bit of water and a little bit of slip solution, we're able to generate $10,000 by doing this project. So super cool that it only takes a couple of tools. Believe it or not, PPF takes less tools than window tinting, and you're doing projects that are 3 or 4 times the cost of a tint job. Now we're gonna go up to this corner. Same thing, I'm gonna hold my finger very close by so I can tell how much heat I'm actually giving it. I can see it's nice and warm. I'm gonna take my finger, just carefully work it around, and look at that corner. Unbelievable, no crease at all. And then I'm gonna use my thumb and work out of that corner with nice firm pressure. Same thing, scraping it down. I'm using my thumb, but I'm using it firmly. Okay, I'm not gonna come all the way down before I jump over to this corner. Use my finger there. I'm really scraping it with my finger. I'm not just lightly going over the edge, I'm scraping it. Almost kind of hurts my thumb a little bit because I'm pushing so hard but that's kind of stretching it as I go around at the same time. Again, no crease, full pressure with your thumb. I'm leaning against my thumb. Okay, now I'm gonna jump all the way down here. Okay, mold it around the corner. I could see just a little bit of air right there, so I'm gonna just pull that back just right there, get a little bit of air out, and go through it with my ghost glove. There we go. The name of the game is doing work that you're proud of. Everyone's gonna have different expectations and different standards. All you can do is work that you're proud of. And I'm extremely proud of this edge, and especially that corner with no creases. And also my cut being nice and symmetrical, and very, very few steps, if any at all, in that cut. Now again, not everyone's gonna inspect to see how many steps are in the cut, but it just feels really nice at night when I lay down to know that I'm proud of the work that I'm putting out. But you know, if a customer's not happy with it, obviously I care, but the number one thing I care about is if I'm proud of it.